Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain, where we are currently in a black cat cosplay. We are testing out the ability for this mask to stay on my face without strings. It is spirit gummed to my face, and I am testing its ability to stick. I also need to see if it's going to, I felt it lift here in the middle, so I know for sure I need more there. And I'm starting to feel the sides kind of like as I move my face start to loosen. So this is a great way for me to test this out and while doing a real life thing. And so you guys get to look at it while I record book reviews. And today's book review is By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult. Now, Jodi Picoult is someone who I wasn't certain if I was going to like her stuff, and I'll tell you why. And honestly, my personal opinion is there are certain people, certain writers who they get a lot of word of mouth, they get talked about a lot, and sometimes I'm disappointed when I read them and sometimes I'm not. So this was a person that I wasn't certain. I had not read her stuff before, but I had heard a lot of things. Now, I hadn't heard a lot of things from people who share a similar reading style as me, but I had heard a lot of things on Book Talk and things like that. One thing I will say about Jodi Picoult and By Any Other Name is that it's not one of those huge, what I would call book talk books, surprisingly. And I'm thinking it's because the demographic is probably just a little bit older and it's not still in the millennial, Gen Z, Gen Alpha realm of reading. I would say it's a little bit maybe in the older realm of reading, and not in a bad way. But I would say Christian Hannah is probably in the same way. Now, I love Christian Hannah, and I read her book, The Nightingale, and it was so good. And I've seen her book, The Women, I think it was, all over the place. So it's a book that's on my radar. I just haven't picked it up yet because I know the trauma that I kind of went through after I read The Nightingale. It was so heart-wrenching that it left me with a book hangover. So I think that's one of the reasons I have been holding off on reading some Jodi Picoult, is I know she's well thought of in a lot of different reading genres and reading realms, I guess you could say, by a lot of different readers. I just didn't know if she was someone I was going to jive with until I got this book. And I was kind of intrigued by what I was reading with regards to the summary. So let's dive into that and we'll go from there. So, By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult is releasing on August 20th of 2024. Now, I will say my book podcast received an email from her publishing company just asking if we would review this book. And I know my book co-hosts, Annalicia and Hannah, have been incredibly busy with just life in general. And so even though we might not do a podcast episode for it, I thought it was a book that was worth at least diving into, seeing what I thought. And honestly, I'm probably the one of the three of us who this book is not really geared towards. But honestly, I liked it. I mean, I'd give it 4.5 stars or 4 stars for my genre. But two women, centuries apart, one of whom is the real author of Shakespeare's plays, are both forced to hide behind another name to make their voices heard. In 1581, Amelia Bassano, like most young women of her day, is allowed no voice of her own. But as the Lord Chamberlain's mistress, she has access to all theater in England and finds a way to bring her work to the stage secretly. And yet, creating some of the world's greatest dramatic masterpieces comes at a great cost. By paying a man for the use of his name, she will write her own out of history. In the present, playwright Melina, I'm going to get these names right eventually. One day, you say it in your head and then you say it out loud and it doesn't work sometimes. But playwright Melina Green has just written a New York a new work inspired by the life of her Elizabethan ancestor, Emilia Bassano. Although the challenges are different, 400 years later, the playing field is still not level for women in theater. Would Melina, like Amelia, be willing to forfeit her credit as author just for a chance to see her work performed? Told in intertwining narratives, the sweeping tale of ambition, courage, and desire asks what price each woman is willing to pay to see their work live on, even if it means they will be forgotten. And so it is considered historical fiction, contemporary feminism, and it's books about books is what it kind of says. So just kind of giving you a few of the genres that it is classified in. Now it is kind of girthy at being 528 pages in the Kindle edition. And so that was probably the part that was a little daunting for me. It's because I'm honestly not used to reading books that girthy unless they are filled with a whole bunch of science fiction, magic, and fantasy. And in my brain, I'm thinking of like Brandon Sanderson, because I can definitely read 1,000 pages of Brandon Sanderson and still be craving more. I will say my review, my critique is that it's about a 4-star. I'd probably go ahead and give it 4 stars on Goodreads. Haven't yet left my review yet, but plan on doing that sometime this weekend. As I get a few minutes, plan on doing that. And I'm not saying this book is not good by any means. I thought it was really well written. I think Jodi Picoult knows her style. I think for me, it's just about I'm not certain this is really the type of book that I pick up frequently. Had I heard about the fact that Shakespeare's plays or Shakespeare's works could have been written by a female, yes. I mean, I have a master's in literature. The theory has been postulated. And, of course, we are now 500 years removed from that time. And will we ever fully know? I mean, it would be great, but I don't know. Could it be that he did some and she did some? Again, I don't know. But this work does kind of postulate that maybe he didn't do it, that she borrowed his name, and so she was the true author of William Shakespeare's plays. And so for me, that was a little it's a little, I don't know, I don't want to say frustrating, but I really, I'm not the biggest Shakespearean fan. I like his works, or I like the works by Shakespeare. I'm more of a sonnets person myself. I really love the poetry. I love the phrasing of a lot of different things, and there are definitely some one-liners that are phenomenal. There are some quotable moments, all that sort of fun stuff. But some of it is just difficult in all, reading that language now is sometimes not as easy as what I wish it was. But we are so far removed from when it was written that, reading Romeo and Juliet now, we find a lot of issues with it and problematic points in it. But of course, at the time, it was meant to be a drama. It was meant to be, a love story, but tragedy, blah, blah, blah. As we reflect on it more now, we find issues with the fact that these two, one's a teenager, one's in his 20s, and so there's a couple problematic themings within the play itself that is kind of suspicious. But I'm not the only one who kind of was on the fence a little bit about this book. I think it is a good feminist book. It is a good book for women about powerful females or women who are finding their voice. And I think that is really well done. I think Jodi Picoult actually does that incredibly well. I don't know. I think for me, I was just not the target audience for this book. And that is not in any way derogatory towards this book. I am just not the target audience for this book. And that's okay. I think that happens. But I felt like this book, like, it kept me interested. I did keep flipping the pages. I did keep wanting to know what was happening, what was going on, how things were going to play out. I was intrigued by that. But do I think I'm going to run out and grab another Jodi Picoult book right away? No, probably not. It is a standalone, and it is a book that I received from NetGalley, so I do want to go ahead and just acknowledge that I received a free copy of it on my Kindle or on my NetGalley account, which is very much like Kindle anyway, in exchange for an honest review. And so that's what you're getting. You're getting my honest review, is that I'm not sure this book was really for me. That's okay. Again, to each their own, to everybody their own style, and that works out well. I really like, as I was reading some of the reviews by other people, because I wanted to kind of get an idea if it was just me. After reading it, I wanted to see if it was just me who had a hard time kind of putting myself into the moment of this book. And maybe that's where I'm falling flat a little bit, is that I didn't feel pulled in the way I love feeling pulled in when magic abounds, or when there's a cozy vibe or something like that. When there's a book that feels right for me in the moment, like, it often doesn't matter what the content is, as long as I am really vibing with that story. And I kept finding myself being taken out of this story, whether it was dragging or whether I wasn't really connecting with the characters. And maybe it's because I don't encounter some of the same issues with finding my own voice in a male-dominated world. Jodi Picoult, as a writer, I'm certain she has overcome a lot of different adversities to just make her voice heard, as many other female writers might have. And so they probably often get pigeonholed as well for, like, the types of writing they quote unquote should be writing. And so I just felt a little disconnected from this story. And someone else noted that it seemed to drag at times. I would acknowledge that for me, there were points where I didn't feel like things were going on, or that we were kind of carrying on the same sort of conversation or scene for just a little too long, and we weren't moving things forward in a meaningful way. That's probably something that I would kind of critique from my standpoint. Again, these are all my thoughts. These are just what I'm seeing or what I'm feeling with regards to this story. This has, like, you're welcome to go on Goodreads and read other people's reviews. You're welcome to go out and read this book and see if it's something that maybe you would like. I think for someone who likes emotional books, this might be good for you. If you like a good feminine book or feminist book, this may also be good for you. If you like seeing women overcome that adversity in history and find their place in history, this may be a book for you. But again, we encounter a character who had to hide her identity behind the name that becomes like a household name, and then tries to kind of more or less reclaim that credit 500 years later. It's hard to overcome for me, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be something that someone else may really enjoy. So those are just my thoughts on this book. I, again, think it was well done, well researched. I think she has a great voice, and for people who are fans of Jodi Picoult, it's probably well worth the read. I think I'm going to stick to my, like, sci-fi fantasy. I'm going to dive back into another, like, I don't know, fantasy book for the next, like, week or so. See what I can come up with. But until next time, I would love to know your thoughts on this book. I think it's probably going to be what I would call quote unquote viral, only because of the name behind the book. But I think there are books and movies that have recently come out that I don't understand at all. That I'm like, why is this so popular? I don't get it. Again, I don't think I'm the target audience. Maybe I'm supposed to be the target audience, but I'm definitely not. Deadpool Wolverine is where, like, that's my... I'm the target audience for that. Other books and other things that get turned into movies that are from books, sometimes not so much. So it really kind of depends. But anyway, I've given you my thoughts. I've told you what I think. And I don't know. Maybe it vibes with what you're thinking. Maybe it doesn't. And that's okay. We all have our own thoughts. But I would love to know yours down below. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you guys on the next page. And have a great one.